Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 185 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we're coming to you once again from the worldwide headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great organization this week as we highlight the Gaston Interfaith Trialogue for the second time. Believe it or not, it was way back in episode number 52. That was almost 3.5 years ago, so I'm excited to hear what has been going on. We have Joan Martin with us today, Rafat Ray Hammam, and Mark Epstein, and maybe a fourth guest potentially later. We'll see if he makes it. But Joan is retired Presbyterian minister and also retired as the chaplain from Covenant Village. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, Mark is a longtime Gastonia resident, veterinarian, and a member of Temple Emmanuel. And Rafat Ray Hammam is a member of the Islamic Society of Gastonia and also a founding member of the Trialogue, correct? All right. So welcome, guys. It's great to have you, and welcome to the podcast. So as normal, we're going to get right to it. And we're going to start with Joan, probably with every question, because I assume she's going to know more than anybody. But Joan, just before we get started about the Trialogue, just real quickly, tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you'd like to share for our listeners.
Just that I've been in Gaston County for, 22 years now, and I can live anywhere and have chosen this county to live in. Gastonia is truly great.
Better for us.
It's just been a wonderful experience to be here, and certainly to have dear friends from Temple Emmanuel and from the Islamic Society. So it's great to be here, and I don't know what else to say.
As normal, she deflects the question and don't want to talk about herself. Do her humility. So, Mark, how about you? What can you share for us real quick?
Well, I'm from Atlanta originally, and I have been here in Gastonia 41 years coming up this
So you
spring.
came when you were 2?
So thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. I'll make a note of the compliment. I came here out of veterinary school and took a job, and then was offered a partnership, stayed, and met my wife, and raised a family, and Gaston is great. I have just really enjoyed Gastonia. And the other thing that I need to make sure that your readers know is that I'm no relation to Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Epstein.
It's just important to kind of get that out.
Do people ask you about that?
They do. Well, they react. They get nonverbal reactions when they hear my name. And so I have gotten into the habit of
Welcome to
introducing
2020.
myself.
Welcome to 2026, right?
And we did check. We
whiz.
absolutely checked.
And you are not related.
Absolutely not related, not even close.
All right.
Not even distantly.
Wow. All right. Well, Ray, actually, I don't know how to follow that, but if you don't mind.
It's tough. Thank you, Stephen, for having us. Certainly wonderful to share with you and the listeners our project that we've started a few years back. My name is Ray Hammam, and I came to Gaston County and made Gaston County home in the mid-'80s to study and attend college.
I think we arrived about the same time.
About the same time, I think. Yeah, we talked about that. And met my wife in college. 36 years later, we're very proud to have 3 boys and 2 wonderful daughter-in-laws.
All right. Well, very good.
Thank you.
So again, it's great to have you guys here. I know just from knowing you guys, having you on before, I know enough about the Trialogue to be dangerous. So before we get into maybe what's changed, just for our listeners who might not be familiar with the organization and the work you're doing, so I'm just going to throw it out to you guys. Just give us a quick, what is it, how did it start, and then we'll get into kind of maybe what's been going on the last 3.5 years.
Steve, right after 9/11, we felt the need and urge to communicate with each other and bring people together to understand one another as we all live together in Gaston County. Right immediately after 9/11, we all collectively felt the desire to communicate, and a small visit from the folks at Temple Emmanuel to the mosque sparked the conversation, and a little bit further, a few weeks, perhaps maybe a month or 2 later, we have met a wonderful gentleman from the Queen of Apostle, Dennis Steele Fleming, And he put us all together as Muslim, Jewish, and Christian to come together and sit together in one table. And we start talking just about the simple things, our holidays, our food, and what we like and what we don't like, our families perhaps. And from there, we built a wonderful relationship. A few years later, we continuously met on a monthly basis. We were actually looking forward to meet each other on a monthly basis. We felt that we have grown enough to share it with a community, a larger community. So we start inviting various denominations from all different place of worships in Gaston County. And 21 years later, here we are. Our meetings is strong on a monthly basis. We meet, and we are looking forward to the future to build more bridges.
All right. Is it fair to say, again, this is where I'll butcher my understanding, but was that understanding, listening, getting to know each other face to face, was that kind of the underlying original, or am I oversimplifying it?
I guess I'll pick up.
Okay.
I got involved probably about 6 months after those original meetings,
Okay.
and they were having these meetings, very, very small core group of people, because you'll have to recall, I think we all recall, this is right after 9/11, so there was anger, there was fear kind of all around.
Sure.
For example, I came to learn the folks from the mosque, they couldn't go to the grocery store with a hijab, because of the, right, so you get the idea.
Yeah.
So everybody was fearful, scared, and of course among the non-Muslim members of the community, also angry, and also had no idea, confused why this would happen, right? So with all of that, they did not want to open it up to a large group at that time, so it was a few months of meeting, getting to know one another, and trust building, and then by invitation, it started to expand somewhat, and that's when I got involved, and others from the mosque and the wider Christian community as well. So I think that the first order of business was really just gaining that fellowship. You really can't have any kind of conversation about anything, easy or hard, unless you start to really get to know people. And that's probably the first step. And we used, at the outset, Abraham, because he's common to all three traditions and important to all three traditions. And we had a book about Abraham that we kind of read together, and that's what we discussed on our monthly meetings. And through that time, we were able to then explore many things about our faith traditions, our cultures, ritual items, holidays, food sometimes. And so, yeah, it was we were able to, by years in, be able to say we actually had friends in this group. And that's what laid the groundwork for all the great things that have happened since then. And we've expanded to having something on the order of 200 people or so on the listserv, on the email listserv, and we have about 30, 40. Still, we meet, now it's every other month, but still about 30 or 40 come to each meeting. And there's a lot more to fill in there, but
sure.
I'll turn it over to Joan for any other color commentary. My
involvement was, I saw what was happening after 9/11. I was especially distressed about all the anti-Muslim rhetoric on the news or wherever, internet. And I don't know if you guys know this, but my first time I reached out was to Gaston.
Mm-hmm.
And Gaston. And, I called the mosque with no response. I wish I could help you all somehow, and, call me back. And, of course, no one called back. Who's this crazy woman who wants to help us, And everything was so unsteady and uncertain at that time. I can understand the thinking behind that. But Gaston came and spoke to the Gaston Clergy and Citizens Coalition. We had the clergy group get together and ask him some questions. This is long before I got involved with with Interfaith Trialogue. So he was able to tell us a lot of interesting things about bringing up teenagers in Gastonia, going to a secular high school, and it was a really good exchange. So my first introduction was to Gaston, and then I forget how I got in touch with you guys exactly, but it kind of went fallow. We stopped meeting for a few years.
Dennis Teal Fleming, one of the founders, had moved to
Oh,
Asheville.
okay.
And so
Joan had reached out to Bill, and
I remember now.
and Bill and I have decided to meet with Joan.
Yes.
And we
Well,
met.
let me tell the story
Yes,
about
please
Bill.
do, yes.
'Cause I called Bill or got in touch with him somehow, email or
this is
something.
Bill Gross.
Gross, yeah.
Bill
who's
Gross.
Our guest
Also,
that
I'm
made
glad
it.
he's not
Temple
here.
Emmanuel, Temple Emmanuel as well, correct?
Right, Temple Emmanuel. So I got in touch with Bill, and so 6 months later, 6 months later, he gets back in touch with me, and he said, I'll meet you at Bellacino's, this pizza place, to have lunch. So we get there and we talk, and he's like, what's in this for you? Like, why do you even care? I was like, well, it's on my heart, and the way I was raised, my mom, her upbringing was her parents were doctors, and they had a lot of Jewish friends who were doctors. And so my entire upbringing was, how great the Jews are, which anti-Semitism is beyond me. I can't understand that at all. So having said all that, I told Bill, I just have this affinity towards Jews and certainly Muslims and other faith groups and people who are in need.
Presbyterians.
Yeah, and Presbyterians, I like them too. So, but the key thing that happened during that lunch is Bill looked at me and he said, things are going along fine right now. He said, but if you were threatened because of your friendship with me, would you still, if something happened, would you still support the Jews? And that was, to me, like a gut punch. And I sat there for a second, and I really, really thought about it. And I said, yes, because I won't stand up. I've been harmed. I've been oppressed. I've been subjugated. And if I have any kind of power, I want to help someone else if I can use that. So just explained that to Bill, and I think I was in then. I think I made the grade. So the next time we got together at another very fancy restaurant with Ray, we went to Olive Garden and had these soup salad and breadsticks for $10.99. And just, again, it was really funny because weren't you guys on the opposite side of the table?
We were.
And
we were.
So the two of them and me at a booth, and there was just great, not mistrust, but untrust. And so it just really took us, about an hour and a half of talking and trying to understand, just to establish a nascent, a tiny bit of trust between the three of us.
My experience just in a few years being around is that face-to-face interactions are so critical for so many things.
Yes.
There's so many good things about our technology, but man, there is so much I think that's missed when you don't take the time to, sit down, look somebody in the eye when they ask a question like that, right? As opposed to somebody asking you that question over a text or something. I mean, it's so much more meaningful.
Yeah.
How about, before we get into the last 3.5 years, that period before, a couple of initiatives of things, I remember, I'm going to butcher this too, is like some of the peace walk or something.
Yeah, Walk for Peace.
Walk for Peace. Come on, talk about that, because that might be something that somebody had seen or heard about. How did something like that come about? So it's not just y'all meeting together. There's actually action and things y'all were doing specifically.
My initial experience, just to follow up with what Joan was saying, right after meeting with Joan and Bill, we were excited. But previously, when we started the trialogue 20 plus years ago, and talking with the early folks there, that I thought having the right message was important.
Sure.
But later on, I was surprised to feel and to learn that you have to listen in the process of dialogue, and so that's really the key element that we started the foundation of our dialogue, if you would, is we listen to the other, even though we may agree, we may disagree, but listening is a critical aspect. And based on that, we built a covenant of some sort that we stick to it, respect one another, respect our faith, respect our traditions, and based on that, we have a lot of activities came about. One that you just highlighted is the Walk for Peace, and I think we've had a couple events that were very successful. And actually, people are asking us now to come back again or circle back and do that. And we are, God's will, we are projecting October, another Walk for Peace. It's amazing.
October 10th.
October 10th, yes.
Date that we
selected,
on.
yes.
Selected.
It's a wonderful 6 miles, plus and minus, if we stay with the same route. We start downtown Gastonia from First United Methodist. Mm-hmm. And what's unique about our Walk for Peace is we go through various places of worship, and we make our final destination at Titman Road at the Islamic Society of Gastonia. Okay. That prelude the 6 miles. So we are looking forward to that. The communities, all communities are we're always welcomed in various places of worship throughout city of Gastonia, and we certainly are looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'll add the Walk for Peace. We were toying with the idea of doing it again, and then the monks came.
Sure.
The Buddhist monks. Sure. And so Facebook lit up with, "This is great. We should do this. Why isn't we haven't?" But we have done this, and so it just said it's a perfect time to start getting it back.
Yeah, well, good.
Back engaged. The idea, Stephen, you mentioned about our meeting together, and then there's the public facing stuff, and the meeting together is it's mission critical. I mean, that's really what we do. That's the beating heart of the trialogue and these face-to-face meetings. I'll add that covenant to which Ray referred is not in the abstract or in our just ethereal. It's actually a document that we will sometimes, from time to time, if we have new people coming, read out loud so they understand here's kind of the rules of the road. This is the rules of the discussion. And it's the theme of it, essentially, the through line is basically you're here to listen and learn.
Yeah.
And not to espouse stuff. But we all will, convey viewpoints along the way. Some of the other side of the coin, which is the public-facing stuff, the Walks for Peace have happened over the years. We've had interfaith Thanksgivings from time to time. We have put together a very well-attended public meeting that included a prominent imam, nationally well-known imam, and similarly a nationally well-known rabbi, and then Richard Boyce, who's nationally known Presbyterian minister,
very well,
former mayor of Belmont. And they were a panel discussion about basically religious-based hatred, and that we're all in this together. That was kind of the theme of it, and there must have been 200 or 300 people at Unity Place.
So one thing I heard that when I was younger, I didn't know this, is I used to listen to respond. Mm-hmm. And the correct way is to listen to understand. Mm-hmm. And that's a big Stephen Covey thing, and that's one of his 7 habits, right? And so
always seek to understand.
Yeah, before you expect to be understood. That's right. So, God, but that's hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's not in your. I don't think it's in our human nature to. It's all about us, right? So we want to be understood. Mm-hmm. I don't care what you think, Joan. That's about me, right? That's just our human. Until you become aware of that, though. Also,
add a religion into the mix. And,
especially because I'm right. Right.
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, so it's just, gosh, if I had learned that a little sooner, I would have been a little better off. Everybody around me would have been a little better off.
Can I tell a story as well? There's
sure.
a couple of them, but from my perspective, as somebody that's Jewish, living in a Christian world, I've always existed in this state of respect, but confusion maybe.
Okay.
So it took how many years it took for me to go to Richard Boyce or Dennis Steele Fleming or any of these earlier folks and say, okay, explain grace to me again, please, because the Christian concept of
concept.
grace. And it turns out that Judaism has a concept of grace. We don't think about it exactly the same way, but it's there. And I would not have explored it in my own faith had we not had these discussions. That's another through line. It's an important one to say. Nobody is going to, some people won't come to these because they're very committed to their faith. They're so committed to their faith. They don't want to be exposed to other faiths as if it's somehow going to contaminate them. But, nobody has ever come to one of these things, Jewish, and walked out Muslim. I mean, it's never happened. Nobody's
like it's contagious.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So you go into it with a expectation of simply learning about these other faiths, and that helps you. And that's the reason people, I think, continue to come. We all have this wonderful feeling about being able to have these friendships and make the world a little bit of a better place by having Jews, Muslims, and Christians understand each other here in our community better. But also individually and personally, I think it challenges us, and it makes us look deeper into our own traditions and to be able to explain it to others, because sometimes it's just, you don't have to do that normally to people of your own faith. It's just kind of rote and automatic.
Sure.
But in this space, you have to. So it helps you grow in understanding of your own faith and your own commitment to your own tradition. So those are both personal and community benefits to what we have done.
So also, I think for me, day to day, we're not exposed to the commonalities of religion, right? We're exposed to the differences, and we're exposed to, so it's just, that's where you have to slow down and listen to understand, as opposed to, well, I don't care, Joan, because, whatever you're talking about, you're wrong.
Can I tell another story?
We only have 4 hours on
okay.
time, but
I'm a man of few words, but I'd like to tell this story. So I've told it many times, but I want to tell it for your audience. It involves Ray and I. And I think we had met once or twice, at one of these meetings, but I had not really gotten to know him just yet. And we were wrapping up one of these meetings. This is like in 2002 or something like that. And I was getting ready to quote. I started to quote something that is in the Midrash, which is a commentary on the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, that was produced about the year 100 or so, about the same time the Gospels were being written. This was being written as well, but it's kind of an oral tradition, oral commentaries that were finally being written down. And one of these lines says, and I was telling Ray this, about how good I was feeling about this meeting, and I turned to Rafat and I said, so there's this proverb, so to speak, in the Midrash that goes, that when two people sit together and they study Scripture, and Ray finished, God sits between them. I said, that's right. How did you know that? It's in the Midrash. He goes, it's in the Quran. I said, no, it's in the Midrash.
Exactly.
He goes, no, it's in the Quran. So this same ethos exists in these two traditions. That was a real light bulb. I had several already by this time, but this was a real light bulb moment. So when you speak about the commonalities, that's what triggered that memory for me. That was a core memory. And then once you go forward, of course there are differences. These are three different faiths, and they have three different traditions and ways of thinking about God and man and the relationship between God and man. But there are so many similarities. So for your watchers and listeners, you would be blown away about some of the fundamental similarities in the way these three faiths come to life, the universe, and everything. It's really amazing.
And I don't know, I would consider that a positive, but I'm afraid some people might think, well, what do you mean? They can't be the same. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Ray, you're going to add something?
I just want to just add to Marcus' point. What I take home every time I attend the meetings is something that I remember a few years back. One of our elder attendees that attended with us back in early 2000. I was asked. I always ask after the meetings, what do you take out of that? You come in here and you're older. You're in your 70s and 80s. this particular one that always resonated in my mind.
From the mosque?
No, she was one of our early attendees from the Christian faith. She said, this meeting strengthened my own faith. To Marcus' point, we definitely kind of finish each other. We learn from each other. As we come back and circle back and meet again, we have to kind of find a little bit in our own faith. What do we need to talk about? Learn more about my faith, so I can share it with others. Again, listening it was important to us early on, and so we take that home. We take the sharing part home with us as we apart from each other, and that's meaningful to all of us.
I appreciate that. So let's kind of jump in and talk about the last 3.5 years since we talked with the Trialogue in the fall of 2022, which is hard to believe. So what's kind of been going on with the Trialogue, and then in the broader scope of the world, maybe, so to speak, and just let y'all kind of speak to that. What's been going on there, and how you want?
Well, I know that y'all have been. I've retired, so I've stepped away. My job previously was a self-appointed facilitator. One of the things I'm good at is herding cats. So I would send out emails, and so my job I saw more as just getting everybody together. And then, of course, we always would have a representative from the Islamic Society and the temple at each of our meetings, and so that would kind of ebb and flow as well. But lately, when they have met, because Bill Gross has taken most of the, and Ray have taken that responsibility more so for the facilitating. They've talked about various things that they'd like to do. Again, another Thanksgiving meal, I believe.
Yes.
Certainly the Walk for Peace, which I told them I'd be happy to organize that. I kept all my stuff in a file folder from the last one, so I think I can do that again. But that was very, very successful. And one thing I wanted to add is that we stopped at different churches along the way.
Okay.
We stop at the temple, we stop at the mosque at the end, but also various churches along the route. And I want everyone to know that we have vans available for those who can't walk the entire.
Yeah, 6 miles is legit.
Yeah,
It is.
that's a long. But what's been fascinating too about the Walk for Peace is that different people will show up just at the church. They'll do a portion of the walk, and every, we've had Lutherans, we've had, of course, the Presbyterians. Gosh, help me out, guys. Or the Baptists. But everywhere we've gone, people have been extraordinarily outgoing and provided water and sometimes a snack and things like that.
I should make sure that Joan, she says she was just an emailer. It was more than that. Because it had when Dennis moved to Asheville, he was the main organizer. Well, we went fallow a little bit. Mm-hmm. So she's the one who really brought us back together and kind of resurrected us, you might say. So I guess
no
resurrection
pun intended,
resurrection
right?
can occur, I guess. Yeah, that joke went over big at Rotary.
Yeah, that was funny, actually.
Well, just to kind of carry forward a little bit, I think some of there have been some kind of fundamental shifts that have occurred in the last 3.5 years, specifically that time frame, and it shouldn't go without saying that it's been the war.
Sure.
But I do want to, because we're not going to explain the war or talk, argue about the war or anything else, but we will talk about how it's affected us as a group. But I think it's important to lay the groundwork for that conversation by saying, in those early days, as we talked about scripture and traditions and rituals and things like that, and this trust was built and friendships were built, that we were able to start to get into tougher things. I mean, there's difficult things in everybody's scripture. Do you know what? And there are things that we don't focus on, and I'll just use the Jewish tradition, for example. If you want to see some pretty brutal language about what happened at Jericho and some other places and some other stories, that's not something we focus on, but it's in our scripture, and we kind of need to confront that. Well, there's difficult things in the New Testament. There's difficult things in the Quran. And we've been able to kind of go there because of years and years and decades, literally, of this kind of trust building. And that leads us to the ability to continue to have conversations when the ultimate test of these friendships and these relationships has began in the war. And so
You're talking about the war in Gaza. And
Yes.
Talking about October 7 and everything that happened after that. Not Iran, correct. Correct. So with that, I'll pause. I just want to say that it's a testimony to the relationships that have been built over that period of time, and the trust and the friendships and the mutual understanding, to use the term that you used, Steve, between within the trialogue broadly, between the Muslim and the Jewish community here in Gastonia more specifically, and then the personal relationships that Bill and I hold with Rafat and Sam and others in the mosque. The fact that we're able to sit here and you can ask that question of us and we'll be able to answer it with authenticity and without anger or recrimination, that's the testament to what has been built here in Gastonia.
I'd like to add to that, as an outsider, watching the two groups grapple with such a very, very serious, for example, Ray, you and Sam told me that you had friends that were being killed in Gaza by the Israelis, and then likewise Mark and Bill, and to watch them, because again, we met at Olive Garden, and for you all to respectfully argue about it and respectfully to stay in conversation, not leave the room. I was so impressed with how you all handled that. It was really an amazing thing to see that your faith and your friendships saw you through. And thankfully there's been at least a ceasefire or somewhat of a resolution now, but watching you all work together on that was a real testament to faith and love of God.
Certainly is watching people suffer throughout the years was a challenge, no doubt of that, as Mark highlighted. But we always try to be grounded to the work of peace, to spread the understanding, to spread love and to the neighbors. Biblically, that's what we are ordered to do. But certainly was a challenge, Steve. It was 2 years, 2.5 years. It was tough. Tough seeing the media play it different ways than at the ground. Certainly was not helping the process. But again, every time we circle back, we see understanding. We see people that listens. We see people that willing to share the sorrow. We certainly have laughed together throughout the years. We have cried together. We shed some tears together. And that matters to our group. We do have plans for the future, hopefully, to continue, obviously, and engage more of the younger generations to give them more of the insight that we've had established throughout the years.
That's the real challenge.
And that is the challenge, truly, to bring in a younger crowd as we are aging and getting older, 20 plus years later. We would like to see some of the 30 plus on board around the table with us, understanding and sharing the thoughts and ideas. And that's something that we are really looking forward to take on in the next few years.
Yeah, that's interesting. At the time, I didn't realize this, but growing up, I was lucky. Two things occurred. I had one of my best friends, the Horowitz family here, Neil Horowitz, and my buddies. We did everything together. I had a very close Jewish friend, got to know his family very well. Then I go off to NC State, gigantic university. So I am thrown into all this diversity. And essentially at the time, I didn't think anything about it. But now I realize that was helpful for me, because you're forced to live in a suite or dorm with somebody of a different religion. You're like, but it was like, okay, you just eat different food. I mean, as a dumb college student, that's kind of how we viewed it, right? We weren't exactly having these deep conversations, about. It was more about, how old are you? Do you have a fake ID? That was the level of our conversation in depth of of that. So it's interesting, to your point, Ray, about gosh, I'm afraid the younger generation, they're absorbing so much from these devices. And I'm afraid I've gotten a little too cynical that I almost, to your point about the media, I pretty much have gotten to where I don't believe a headline from anywhere.
Sure.
And that's not good either. So
No basis for truth.
Yeah, and how do you now AI jumping in, it's even can't trust video anymore either.
Because it used to be Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
That was the truth.
Well, I think
We don't have that.
You have hit upon just connecting two dots. If these have made it worse, because you also get this siloed of information, right? So you just hear what your algorithm feeds you. That the other dot being the best way to address it is face-to-face.
Correct.
And so
there's less of that. There's less of that seemingly
much
going
less
on.
of that, but that's our challenge. And if we have a kind of a generational challenge of engaging young people, so these would be millennials would be like in their 30s, and Zs would be in their 20s. Engaging them in this kind of a thing when they're not used to it at all.
Yeah.
They grew up with phones. First of all, is a challenge just on the face of it, and then polarization on this issue along religious grounds and political grounds has gotten so much worse that people may not even see the utility or see a futility in even trying that. You know what I mean? So there's all these headwinds to getting younger people engaged, but Rafat is 1,000% correct, and that it's the mission going forward. We talk to Dennis Teal Fleming from time to time. He's up in Asheville, and he started one trialogue up there as well. But he said that the life expectancy of one of these kinds of things is usually like 5 years, something like that. And here we are 25 years later, and we just do not want to see it ebb away with us or the founders of it. But it's going to require this intentional effort to engage a younger generation. And we've talked to things like getting our own podcast or having a website or an app or whatever.
Yeah.
And the problem with doing that is that you end up, when you're that public facing, of course, then the haters come in. And then it can stoke the problem instead of trying to fix the problem. So we haven't cracked that nut yet.
Sure.
So for your listeners that are listening and they're younger, 30s, 20s, and might be interested, I would advise them to contact the podcast and they reach out to us, and then we will, so kind of person by person along the way.
Well, that point really rings to me. My kids are 27, 25, and 20. Right, so they're in that.
And what's their email addresses? Go ahead.
Yeah, we can share that. But you know what? And they all have different views of the world, which is interesting. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. I mean, they grew up in the same house.
Well, hopefully.
Luckily, they have the same mother, so they're all good there, right? I mean, I'm the one that's just confusing everything. I mean, we're a mixed family, right? She's a Tar Heel. My wife is, God bless her.
Too bad.
So we know about that conflict,
What a tragedy.
If that can happen, then anything can happen positively. If a Tar Heel and a Wolfpacker can get along.
I hope. I mean, you have set such a good role model for them about involvement in the community, that it's not just a matter of personal interest. It's really, it's almost mission work a little bit.
Sure.
To make the world a little better place, but just their corner of it if they can. And I hope that has. I'm sure that it has. They just have to work it into their schedule and kind of make it a priority.
Right. So looking ahead, you kind of touched on that young, the perfect scenario, if I'm hearing correctly, is how can we get younger people involved, listening to understand, interacting face to face more with each other. Is there anything else looking ahead, like here, we used to try to do these 5 and 10 year plans. We don't do that anymore. Everything changes so quickly, or an event might happen like, that we experienced 2.5 years ago. So we don't even look, we might look 2 or 3 years ahead. But what would the trialogue, in the perfect scenario, a year from now, you look back and say, wow, we accomplished what we hoped to accomplish?
Definitely getting more involvement. We are, Bill and I, Mark and Joan, have attended many various organizations have invited us throughout the years, the past 25 years. We definitely, this is something that we would like to kind of make ourselves available for other civic organizations.
Okay.
We'd like to kind of attend perhaps meeting. We'd like to kind of forecast to see where can we be benefit to a group, perhaps maybe to a congregation, to a study group, perhaps. We want to become available, and this is something that we are, as a group, we are working on, to be a benefit to the larger community, if you would, and be present.
And I don't think they give themselves enough credit, because so many times the 4 of you, Bill, Ray, Sam, and Mark, have been willing to go to Protestant, Catholic,
Sure.
any kind of religious entity, and to speak about Islam and Judaism together. So,
Well, plus what triggered this second visit was you guys speaking at Rotary. So that's another
Yeah.
organization I got to hear.
Yeah,
and they do that a lot, and they do it unselfishly and without remuneration either.
the lunch.
Oh, lunch, that's true. You
Sorry.
get you get a sandwich.
you get water.
Yeah, you get water here at GSM. Thank you, Steve. I think the difference between, you're correct, and also Rafat is correct, because the idea would be to do it something a little bit more intent. Right now, it's kind of when we get a call, we'll go, but we're talking about making some outreach and putting ourselves out in the community and available in the community a little bit more, whether it's individually about Judaism or Islam, or whether it's together as the trialogue, and you will be there for that one, and other members of the trialogue as well. So I think that's to spread the footprint. You have to remember that we have no bylaws, we have no governance structure, we have no money. There's no website,
Not
there's
a
no
dime.
And you have full-time jobs. Well,
We
except for
do,
Joan.
yes.
I mean, I don't know what Joan does these days.
So
Really?
Except travel.
So it's less of we don't have an institution, so to speak,
Sure.
and yet we have this commitment, and it's going to require some thought and maybe some help to organize that kind of thing to kind of go out. So again, for your watchers and listeners that may want us to, one or both or all 3 of us, to come and visit your congregation, for example, or your civic organization, contact Steve. And
Absolutely.
We'd like to. Yes.
And we'll make sure, before we finish, we'll make sure you guys share how can they find more information about the trialogue. Of course, we share our email address for the podcast and all that when we're finished too. So before we kind of start to land this plane, so to speak, is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked? Anything you want to make sure you get the message across before we get close to closing this episode out? I just want to make sure that's important, because again, remember, this is that we're here for you to share your message and story, and just anything we haven't asked. I'm such a great interviewer. I probably covered everything.
Just the one thing I want your audience to know is the depth of respect, the depth of caring that we have for one another.
Yes.
I remember talking with Bill Gross again, and we agreed that we would go to the mat for one another. And I never, ever thought, growing up in Pittsburgh, Presbyterian minister, that my best friends would be Muslims and Jews. And so I'm just so very, very grateful for that, especially in this world today where there's so much anti-Islam, anti-Semitism out there.
Everybody yelling at each other.
It just is beyond my comprehension how anyone...
That was kind of my point when I had a Jewish friend and went off to college.
Yeah.
Either I'm just naive, I wasn't seeing it. It's almost like until somebody tells you, well, you shouldn't be hanging out with that person. I'm like, what?
What? Why not?
I
mean, they're great.
So that that ignorance breeds both fear and just
In fact,
what's the
they're
big deal?
better than you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, they're not a Tar Heel. What's wrong? That's all good. I mean, so Rafat, what about you? Anything you want to make sure we get? You guys,
Yeah, just to Jonah's point, we really our biggest supporter in Gaston County was the people. People were amazing all throughout the last 25 years. Every angle, every door we knocked, we had some support and we had some appreciation, and we definitely had some understanding, and that matters for a small group that preaches peace and understanding. We want to see that. We want to see the feedback from our community, and certainly we have received that. To Jonah's point, that we care as much as we care about each other. It's very obvious to others who are willing to join our group and to be part of our group. So we're definitely thankful that we are in Gaston County, we are in Gastonia. So we're looking forward to spread the peaceful message further in the upcoming years.
Mark, any last words, Mark?
Yeah, I think I'd like to use another story that is a metaphor for the message that kind of feeds off of Rafat's. About 10, 12 years ago, I can't recall, but we were contacted by a woman who, I think her master's was in Islamic studies, and she was getting her PhD in something.
Liz Pope.
Yeah, University of Georgia. And her PhD was going to be something along the lines of transformative learning or something in education, but she wanted to focus on the idea of interfaith conversations, interfaith dialogue. And so she somehow found us instead of somebody in Atlanta, and heard about us somehow and came up. And for a year, she recorded our meetings. She interviewed us kind of before, during, and after all this, and put it through all her little, whatever, a PhD as a study project.
Okay.
And it became her dissertation, and after which she has now published pieces and parts of it along the way. It's been in the literature now. And the question that was being asked, kind of the hypothesis, is can you transform what you think and what you believe by just being in dialogue? And if we take something that is things sometimes it seems so diametrically opposed as Christian versus Jewish versus Muslim, can you and you have preconceived notions about what they believe and who they are and what they think of you and all these kinds of things that are just naturally part of people's being. Does that change with this kind of environment? The answer is a hard yes. And so it was the first time it was a proof of concept, basically. The first time everybody assumed it was the case, but nobody had actually proved it in any kind of systematic way. And so if there's kind of a take-home point, it is that we don't have to be in our silos, and we don't have to be married to our preconceived ideas about what other people are like and what they believe and what they think about us. That all you got to do is simply get in a room, and now we've practiced at it. We're pretty good at it by now. And again, I turn to your watchers and your listeners. So if that whets anybody's appetite, to contact you, and we will follow up.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I appreciate that very much.
We thank you.
Oh,
We
yes,
thank
well,
you
appreciate
for this
that. You're
wonderful
welcome very much.
outlet, this opportunity to spread some good words, spread some goodness.
Yeah, our three listeners, my mom, my wife, and my kids will.
Well, if they want to come to one of our meetings.
Yeah, come on.
So where can listeners go or watchers go to learn more about the trialogue or learn more information? Or
So we don't have a website or a central email address. I really think the best thing to do is to contact you, if that's okay.
Perfect.
And
Absolutely.
Pass it along to us, and
the-
we'll
We sure will.
Islamic Society or the Temple Emmanuel.
Yeah, Islamic Society Gastonia.
Absolutely.
Temple Emmanuel here in town. You can just go to those central information sites, and
We have a mailing list that we can add them on,
Oh,
and
okay.
Correct.
Perhaps maybe they can attend some of our monthly meetings. Our monthly meetings throughout Gaston County, different places of worship. We get invited, and we go and have our meeting there. Usually, it's the second Monday of the month. and usually it lasts about an hour, 50 minutes or so. We pick a topic, and we meet there, and we'd be more than happy to add anybody to our mailing list.
Yeah, there's a couple of different formats. So for those who are interested, so one of them is a topic. Let's say it might be humility or something like that, and what do our three faiths feel about that, or what's in our literature about that, or our traditions about that. And the other is something called scriptural reasoning, which is where passages are assigned that from each tradition's scripture that are on some theme or something, and that we flesh it out, So that's where this idea about learning about grace, I think I finally got it, comes out. But, there's anyway, I could go on and on.
Oh, sure.
But so we actually, we derive a lot of our conversations from text. It's not just kind of what Ray thinks or what I think.
Or what you read on the internet today.
Right. It's not just Dr. Google, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating exploration, and you will make close friends and make the world a better place.
Well, knowing you guys for a while, and having I've known Sam actually a little longer, Ray, and so I think for me it's the common humanity. When you have to talk to people face to face, you see the work they're doing, you get to know them. To me, that's just the key, right? It's and some of this other stuff falls away. These assumptions, that we make about that stigma of whatever. Yeah. It's not just religion; it's so many other things that we lump in there as well. So I appreciate the work you're doing, because it's uncomfortable work.
It can be.
And unfortunately, I think sometimes that's what's required.
That's right.
Right, to make
The more
progress.
uncomfortable, the more important, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of like, when I was yesterday morning, it was 30-some degrees, and I'm out running with a couple guys. That's how progress. You got to be uncomfortable for progress. It's not exactly the same metaphor, but it's you have to have those.
How did that quarter mile go?
Well, slow. Yes,
Just curious.
very slow. So something I do, try to do it every podcast, is do maybe a book recommendation or a quote or something. I was intentional this week. I happened to just finish a book. I'm a fan of Stoicism, so I've been studying for a while. And a guy named Ron Holiday that I follow, but he wrote a book called Courage is Calling. And I just finished it literally within the last week. So I don't know, sometimes the timing of me finishing something and relate to the podcast, because courage is what's required for y'all to have these discussions and go take these topics. And then I intentionally picked my quote for this week from Winston Churchill. And he said, this goes exactly what we've been talking about. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen.
Indeed.
So I don't know why those came to me as I was kind of doing a little bit of prep, during my quarter-mile run yesterday. That took, an hour. But listen, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the work you guys are doing.
It's a blessing to be here.
It makes
a
our
great blessing.
makes our community a better place.
Amen.
Without
brother.
individuals like you doing the things. Okay, so I'm grateful for that, and that's one thing about this podcast is I've been exposed to make myself feel better about our community. That's one reason we started it, actually, because it was in the middle of COVID. I was like, we got to do something. I'm tired of hearing this.
Well, mission accomplished, Steve.
Yeah. So thank you.
Fantastic. We're so grateful
All right,
for
so
your podcast.
Well, thank you, Joan. I appreciate that. And again, to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. You think after 180 episodes I could get that right? We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. Thanks again to Joan, Ray, and Mark for being our guests today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amber Hauser from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.
Thank you, Steve.
Wow, that was